At $13.
That's $13
And
a
whatever
person. We must have a commitment by the year on Friday.
Friday morning.
Today is Wednesday.
Yeah.
Also, your wives are uninvited,
No, don't use that terminology.
so you'll get changed.
That's it. You'll get change when she comes.
Is she here?
No,
He's in Bermuda.
He took our money and went to Bermuda? No, seriously, she's not here?
You know what it says, they're going in for the gutter.
All right, those of you who paid for the breakfast, the luncheon will be reimbursed. But we're assuming you're still coming, or so you'll get back. We'll keep your $13. Don't know. If you give it to me, it's too confused.
All right.
Tomorrow, I'll give it
Yeah, you give it to Heshi Plotkin, who's not here now. Otherwise, Michael would know he's here because he would have sung in his ear this morning, right?
That's correct. He sings to me.
Okay. All right, I'm going to start with the learning sponsors. And then we'll get into the daf for today. Right?
So the shear's gonna be right in here.
So we'll have the shir in here and we'll stay and we'll have the Suda here too. The Siyum here too.
I don't need a ride.
No.
Everything's.
Amen. A year of learning by the friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha, by Isaac and Evelyn Blacho in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Isser, by the friends of Leonie Meisman and Leah Staber Bas Chanoch Zum. 2 months of learning by the friends of Milton Meller in honor of his second bar mitzvah. A month of learning by whoever, somebody's got their voice on, please. Thank you. Okay. A month of learning by B. Pizer in memory of her sister, Rivka Bas Avram Michal Halevi. Mendel and David Cheslow in memory of her father, Nehemiah ben Mordechai Yonah Halevi. Haran and Mel Haller in memory of her mother, Malka Rachel Bas Yehuda Leib. Yossi Goldstein in memory of his father, Moshe Tzvi ben Dov. Isaac and Eda Novik in memory of his mother, Miriam Gittel Bas Hanoch Henech. A week of learning by Clara and Jonas Wazer in memory of her father, Moshe ben Yisrael HaKohen, Mira and Herschel Sennett, in memory of her mother, Shosha Bat Avram Alevi, and his mother, Reitzah Bat Yitzchak Yaakov, Anita and Morris Kornblit, and Leora and Lee Weinberg, in memory of their dear friend and teacher, Rabbi Dr. Ron Bronner, Rav Yerachmiel ben Shmuel Yosef. Oscar and Shelley Moll, in memory of his father, Shlomo ben Yitzchak, and his mother, Rachel Bas Naftali. Judith and Michael Poretsky, in memory of her father, Yaakov Yitzchak ben Hirsch Feivel. And we have no individual days of learning today. Therefore, may Neshamas have an aliyah, crank Rafia, Velti, Yeshua, Shem, Matzliah, Mechol b'nei Israel, a good Kaben Shtiah. Okay. Okay. So if we want to just okay. So towards the bottom of Pei Dalet Amud Beis, we saw that there was a machloket there, basically, or a difference of view regarding the Braita and the Mishnah between Rebbe and Rabbi Yossi Rebbe Yehuda. Okay, and then the text says, gave us the example. Hagonev tavlo shel chavero va'achlo, one who steals the non-tithe produce of his neighbor, mishalem lo demei tivlo. Okay, has to pay the amount of that total, basically amount, divrei Rebbe. That was the view of Rebbe. Rebbe Yossi b'Rebbe Yehuda Omer, he disagreed. Eino mishalem ela demei chulin shabo. No, he does not. He only pays the amount that was equivalent in the chulin amount out of the total. Okay, because the other part, which would be theoretically truma, does not belong to that person. It belongs to the Kohen. Okay, so that's ela demei chulin shabo. My love b'hakim iflagei, and that's we just went over a tiny bit on the top of Pei Hey, where we're going to continue. The Rebbe Savar, why? Rebbe was of the opinion, Tovas Hana'amamon, that the benefit of gratitude does have some financial value, as we said, right? Because basically implying he can choose whichever Kohen he would like, and therefore he hopes to get some benefit, so to speak, from that the relationship with that Kohen. Okay, Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda Savar Tovas Hana'a Einam Mamon. And are we saying then that Rabbi Yossi holds that there is no such benefit of gratitude? Okay, and therefore it doesn't have any benefit financially or otherwise? No, says the Gemara. The Kuli Alma Tovas Hana'a Einam Mamon. No, everybody really agrees, okay, that the benefit of gratitude, there is no real financial value. Elahacha, right? B'matnot shelo hurmu kamiflagei. No, where they're arguing is whether or not the Kohen and Levi portions were already separated. Okay, Rebbe takes the opinion that they were not separated, and Rabbi Yossi takes the opinion that they were separated already. Okay, that's what we're talking about. That's their argument. Ve'i tovat hana'a einam mamon. And if you're going to say, excuse me, that there is no financial reward or financial benefit there, mali hermu, mali lo hermu. If that's the case, if you say there is no financial value to tovas hana'a, what difference does it make whether we say it's the portions have been designated already or not designated, separated or not separated? Elahainu Talmud the Rebbe. Says the Gemara, no, rather this is the reasoning of Rebbe. Kansuha Rabbanan Leganav, that the rabbis in this kind of a case put a knas, a penalty on the thief. Okay, Kihechi de lo lignov, in order to teach him and others, okay, he doesn't want repeat offenders. Okay, we'll tell you another story about that. Okay, V'Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda Savar Kansua Rabbanan Labal Habayit, and Rabbi Yossi's of the opinion that the penalty by the rabbis was given to the owner of the produce. Why? Kihechi de lo l'shei l'tivlei, in order that he not delay doing his separation of Trumot and Masrot. In other words, he should have done it right away. The fact that he didn't and it was around, that's what allowed the Ganaf to abscond with it.
The thief gets off without a penalty?
Good question. Let's see. Okay. In other words, what does the thief only has to pay, according to Rabbi Yossi, he still has a penalty. He has to pay something, but not the whole amount. Okay, he has to pay at least what was the non-truma portion. Okay, so he has a penalty. He has to either replace it or pay it. He ate the Breita says, right? Gonev tivlo shel chavero va'achlo. He took the whole olive. He ate the truma and the non-truma. That's a different story. That's a different issue. Right? Maybe that's why Rebbe also holds, okay, that he has to pay the whole thing. But in essence, the point is that quote Truma section really doesn't belong to the owner of the produce. Malchus, right? Isn't it Malchus? Misa b'yidei Shemayim, sure. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't remember that it's Misa b'yidei Shemayim, honestly. And I don't remember that anybody that either Art Scroll commented on that either. Good questions.
Even so.
Yeah.
It have to be already raised as truma. It was.
Well, that's the area, right.
Tevel is not Misa.
Right. So that's right. So that's the point. That comes back to the earlier statement. Was it designated or not designated? Right. Okay. So that's the point. So now we're going to come back to that question. Rava Omer says Rava, Shani Truma. Maybe in this case, because part of that entire produce was Truma, right? It's different. The Hainu Tama, the Yitlu al Korcho, Mishum de Truma, Lo Chazia Elu Kohanim. But maybe we're going to say there, okay, that it can be taken against his will. Why? Because Truma really is, in that case, would not be suitable for Kohanim. Stolen Truma, okay, if that's the case, but it's more than stolen. It's devoured already. Okay, so there is no. Okay.
When the Kohen takes it by force,
I'm
why
not
is
sure.
he allowed to do that? Because no one else could eat it. It's only edible by Kohen.
Right, but it's, what about if it's the same earlier case and he already ate it? So it's gone. That's why the Gemara is going to tell us, and since in that case, right, it is now forbidden, right, on them, Shavya Afra Ba'alma. Okay, it's gone. So it's like dust, it's nothing. Okay.
Since the non-Kohen was mafresh the true. And
Yeah.
since neither he nor anyone in his family nor any of his friends can eat it,
Right.
from his perspective, it's as if it's not valueless. From the Kohen's perspective, it's still edible food because he's allowed to eat through. Therefore, he's allowed to take it by force.
I don't think so. I still have a piece of it. I own it and I have a right to give it to any client I want. You are saying
once you
something which
take
is
it,
a possible, it's not true. I don't think he has a point. I can specify which kind I want. And you're telling me.
no, the guy made a neder that no Kohen can eat his truma. The guy made a neder, I am not giving truma to anybody.
He said it openly like that?
That's what he did. That's what the Mishnah said.
The Mishnah, that was the first part of the end of the
That's
Mishnah.
exactly the case.
Okay,
So
but
now
I-
we're saying
Right, but I don't see this as a separate case. I
It
see
has
it,
to be. You cannot take truma by force if it's been eaten already. I mean, you're
No,
not gonna stick your hand down.
no, but the point is that otherwise they could have.
No, this is a new case. This is going back to why can the Kohen take it?
Okay,
If
well,
we just made it to Kana, you can't steal.
right,
Why can the Kohen take it? So the
Because he has a
answer
right.
is, it's only a Kohen can eat it, vis-a-vis the balabus, it's it's just dirt, dust. And therefore, it has no value, and therefore there can be no knas, and the Kohen can take it. That's what the Gemara is saying.
What you tell me is.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna go back over it. I didn't see it though.
Sid is trying to say no Cohen would do that.
Okay. Okay, let's get to our new Mishnah, right? Okay, we'll see. Okay, I'll go back and look it over because I didn't see that in Art Scroll. Matnit, our new Mishnah, okay? So, as we go to our new Mishnah, Remember, we have said that we're coming back to our original discussion, I'm going to suggest in this mission. Okay? And we've already discussed the fact that we've had all along so far, the last few Mishnayot, the difference between the Rabbanan, who claim that the husband can revoke whether it's inui for the woman or whether it's beino leveina, or versus Rabbi Yossi, who had a different view, disagreed that it only could be beino leveina, right? So what happens? Nitna Mishnah. Person making the vow. Konem she'eni oseh al pi abba. Okay, we're back to the woman. And she's saying, making a vow that I make it like a sacrifice, etc., that I will not provide what I work, my work, or what I do. In other words, maybe it's the work of her hands, maybe it's some other item, okay, for father. In other words, her father, in this case. Second way she could have said it, konem, etc., ve'al pi avicha, in regards to the husband's father, father-in-law, her father-in-law. Another way she could have said it, konem, etc., ve'al pi achi, regarding my brother. Okay. Another way, ve'al pi achecha, regarding your brother. Okay. Eino yachol la'hafer. He is not able to revoke that vow, implying that it seems to be neither an example of inui nor an example of beino leveina. Okay. What happens? Our Mishnah doesn't stop there. She'eni oseh al picha. If she were to phrase her neder, her vow, that I will not do, or I will not provide work or do, in other words, work of my hands. I'm just taking that example because we know that a women were expected, hands A exist, and B, also because we understand that there was, excuse me, a general assumption, Artsro gives it in one of the notes, that a woman was supposed to provide a certain amount of handwork, needlework, okay, yeah. But I'm saying she was supposed to provide a certain amount as part of her daily activities. Okay, so the question may come, we get to that, if she is expected to do that, and that's really part of her, let's say, wifely obligations, all right? Therefore, what about if there's an excess? So let's come back now to our text, and we see the following. If she were to say as her vow, she'eni oseh al picha, that I will not provide, okay, for yourself, eino tzarich lahafer. He does not even have to revoke that vow, because such a vow is exactly opposite her obligations given the ketubah. Okay, so what happens? Rabbi Akiva Omer yefer. Rabbi Akiva says, even in that situation, he should nevertheless revoke. Why? Shema ta'adif alav yoter min hara'ui lo. Perhaps there's a situation that she will produce a certain amount of excess, okay, which theoretically could go to him, okay, and therefore the question is, if she doesn't give that to him, she would use it and keep it on her own and use it for her own sustenance. Rabbi Yochanan is going to give a different reason. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omer, he says, yefer. He agrees with Rabbi Akiva that nevertheless the husband should revoke the vow, right? Shema yigarshena utehi asura alav. Okay, lest he divorces her under the circumstances, and were he want to take her back, he would not be able to do so because he did not revoke the vow, saying that anything her handiwork doesn't come to him. It precluded her from his being able to remarry. If he does, if she vowed, said that I'm not going to give you anything that I do. Okay? That means, okay, that means that in that situation, okay, she is breaking her ketubah requirements. So he reacts, okay, his reaction is he divorces her. Okay, then at that point, okay, what happens? Okay, were he to want her to, the vow is still in effect. So were he to consider, that doesn't mean he's going to, but were he to consider to remarry her, he wouldn't be able to.
You would need a psychiatric examination.
If it's Enoy Nefesh, then his canceling the vow continues at his demise or divorce. But if it's.
But it's
between
Beino
him and
Lebeina,
her,
and that's
it's
what it is.
only in effect when, not in effect, when they're still married. So if he has not made her, she still has to cook dinner because that's her job. But if they get divorced, then he's just a man. And she made a vow to have nothing to do with him, to not be able to deal with him. That vow is now in effect because she doesn't have the husband dispensation. So you cannot marry a woman who made a vow to not deal with you.
No,
Well,
the vow, if,
but this is cooking,
okay.
cleaning, working.
well, okay, let's make it simpler. The simple point is, she's saying anything that guys, one, okay? She has said, her vow is that I will, anything I won't do, basically anything for you, okay? All right, so long as they are married, okay? What happens?
It's canceled,
All right,
whether he says anything or not.
okay? The point is, okay, that's against the ksuba, right? So, but the implication is, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri's point is that he can't remarry her after a divorce because the vow is in effect. If he didn't revoke it.
That's why he say that he should revoke it.
That's why he's recommending that it needs to be revoked regardless. I'm thinking, this just as an aside, I think the part of the difference here could also be that Rabbi Akiva may hold, like the rabbis, that it could be either Inui Nefesh or Beino Lebeina, and maybe Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri may only hold like Rabbi Yossi, that it could be just based on Beino Lebeina. But I don't have any proof for that idea.
The idea that only the minimum requirement of what her obligations, she can not avoid, even if she makes a vow. But if there is excess, if she earns more than 5 sloyim, she doesn't have to turn over her pay. That's a unique to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that unless he specifically exempts her salary by saying, I won't pay for household things, use your own money and keep the balance. That's the only case, according to Yochanan ben Nuri.
Maybe.
If that's in somewhere in the article.
Maybe, I didn't see it. Okay, now we're going to Gemara. And one of the first questions that we're going to ask is the following. Amar Shmuel, Halachak Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So immediately we should come to our mind, why does he decide, they both said the same thing, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yochanan, that he should nevertheless, revoke it, okay? But they gave different rationales. And so why the Gemara wants to also try to understand why is it that Shmuel, in this case, clearly chose the rationale behind Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri's explanation as opposed to that of Rabbi Akiva's explanation? Okay, Lamemra, because Havar Shmuel, does this seem to tell us that Shmuel is of the opinion, Adam makdish davar shelo ba le'olam? Are we saying then that Shmuel is of the opinion that a person can consecrate something that has not yet come into existence? Okay, in other words, we don't know
We're
what,
not divorced
okay, they're not divorced yet. We don't know if she's going to make an excess. Okay,
yet.
so maybe since we don't know that, and if that's the factor that Rabbi Akiva was basing on, then we can understand why Shmuel may not have selected his rationale. Okay, not.
We know what she earns. According to Rabbi Akiva, if she has a salary of 10 sloyim.
We don't know that.
Well, the husband knows, he's been living with her.
But
What
the Gemara
the
doesn't tell me
problem
that.
for Shmuel is that according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, the guy is being Mayfair. Why?
Something in the
Because maybe
future.
I'll divorce her and I'll
Something
stay
in
out.
the future.
Divorce is a government.
We'll see. We'll see.
No, are they divorced now? So how can he make a commitment for when they divorce? Yeah,
The point, the concern is that he did not rely on Rabbi Akiva's point, if that could have dealt with excess, which is a current event,
Correct.
whereas the divorce,
It's
we
a
don't
future.
know if he would choose
And
to
you
do that.
can't give an unborn animal as a corpse.
Okay, that's a whole different
Well,
issue.
no, that's the basis,
That's the basis for the concept.
because a neder is like a
Okay.
korban, and it's my name.
We'll see. All right, Urmain who? But we have a problem, says the Gemara. Okay, the problem is that if this is what, if we're assuming that Shmuel does conceive of Makdish Davar Shelo Ba'al Olam, in a moment we're going to see that he says something else in another situation. So we have a stira in that case. So the Gemara goes on. Hamakdish ma'aseh yedei ishto, one who consecrates the handwork of his wife. Harei zo ochse v'ochelet. All right, she may use that excess, okay, if the husband, right, for herself and benefit from it.
It's not-
Okay, all right, so what happens? Vahamutar, but what about the excess? Then Rabbi Meir Omer Hekdesh, Rabbi Meir argues it is consecrated. But Rabbi Yochanan Hasandlar Omer Chulin, and Rabbi Yochanan Hasandlar says, no, it is non-consecrated. Va'amar Shmuel, and Shmuel in that particular case says, halacha Rabbi Yochanan Hasandlar, that the law is like Rabbi Yochanan Hasandlar. Okay, right? You can't consecrate something then that doesn't yet exist. Alma, therefore, ein adam makdish davar shelo ba le'olam, which implies that Shmuel must be of the opinion that you cannot sanctify or consecrate something that hasn't come into existence yet. Okay? And if you want to say, K'amar halakha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, that when Shmuel said that the law was like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri in our earlier case, right? Al ha'adafa hu dekamar. He was talking about the mutar, the surplus, the extra.
You said that we can't make a neder on something shelo ba le'olam, but it just occurred to me when if you look at at Shmuel Aleph, it says Vatigo neder v'tamar Hashem tzvakot imra'ot tireh ba'eina ba'ani amasecha v'scharkani v'lo tischakas amasecha v'nesata amasecha zera anashim Zativ Hashem Kol Yimei Chayav. So she's being mafresh, mekadesh, her baby who she hasn't even become pregnant yet.
right?
You said we can't make a.
No, the rabbis, but that's the point. She was doing a private
She made a neder.
neder, right?
It says
But it's the
specifically
but it's the question of the rabbis determining whether that can be done based on the vow or an animal. Okay, that's how I would understand it. Okay, right. So what happens? The Gemara comes back though and raises this question. Maybe that's what Shmuel is talking about. And then it says, if that's the case, if that's what Shmuel's intent is, Lema, let him say, basically, Halakha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Bahadafi. Let him spell it out and say clearly that it's only regarding the surplus, the excess. Inami, or maybe he should have said it this way. Halakha Katana Kama. Okay, that would be the answer.
That there's no issue of
Okay.
excess.
All right, that we're not talking about an excess amount whatsoever. Inami, okay, or he could have said, Ein halakha Rabbi Akiva. Okay, that I don't hold that the law is like Rabbi Akiva's view. Okay, so what happens? Ela Amar Rav Yosef, but rather the Gemara comes and tries to bring another alternative answer. Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, Shani Konama. No, there's a difference in regards to a vow associated with the language of sacrifice. Ho'il va'adam oseh perot chavero alav, since a person is able to prohibit the produce of his neighbor on himself.
Even if it hasn't been
Okay.
harvested.
Right, whatever. Oseh nami davar shelo ba le'olam alav. He is able in that case to prohibit for himself something that hasn't come into existence yet. Okay, if I were to make a vow that I will not eat at so-and-so's house, okay, basically, okay, and all of a sudden they invite me next a week from Shabbos for lunch.
You're committed to this.
Yeah, okay, that's
But you can't eat.
the point is that's something shalom balalam, but I've made a vow on myself to limit myself, to prohibit it. Okay, so in that case, it would seem that the var shalom balalam does work, does apply.
Konim parallel,
Okay.
that's an
Right.
understanding.
Okay, so in that case, Alan, coming back to your question, I can make a vow then, as suggested in the pasuk, for myself.
She made it for her son. He would be a that he would do. The Nazir better.
That's part of her, right? That's part of her. Okay,
It's
All right.
not exactly parallel to.
and it's not exactly right. All right. Amar leila Abaye. So Abaye now responds. Okay, back to Rav Yosef. Bishlema Adam Oseh Perot Chavero Alav. That's understandable when a person prohibits the produce of his neighbor on himself. Shaharei Adam Oseh Perotav Al Chavero. Right? Because a person can prohibit someone else, his own produce on somebody else. Ela yasur davar shelo ba leolam al chavero. But is it possible for a person to prohibit something that hasn't come yet into existence on his neighbor? Is that at all possible? Shaharei ein adam oseh perot chavero al chavero. Because a person cannot prohibit the produce of his neighbor on his neighbor. Okay? Ella, rather, another attempt by the Gemara to explain. Ella Amar Rav Huna Berei de Rav Yoshu. He says as follows, rather, Ba'omeret. Okay, it was when she said, Yikadshu Yadai La'oseh. Okay, that the work of my hands, okay, will be considered consecrated to their creator. In other words, we're not talking about the Varsha hasn't come into existence yet. It's her hands are already in existence. So that's the point that she's saying. The Yadayim ha'itnehu ba'olam, that her hands are already in this world, are in existence. V'chi amra hachi kadshe, and when she says this, are they consecrated? But the problem, says the Gemara, is v'ham abdan yadei lebal. But isn't her handiwork already committed, okay, designated for her husband? At least the certain minimum that's expected.
That's all, again, only
Okay.
Rabbi Akiva, the Tanakama and
Right.
Yochanan ben Nuri.
Don't say that,
Unless he
Okay.
specifically rejects it,
right?
it's all his.
However, the Gemara goes on, the amra lechi megarsha, but if she added in her vow, okay, once I'm divorced, that's a different story. Hashta mihat lo megarsha, but now at this point, she hasn't been divorced yet. Umimai lechi amra hachi mahemna, and once, okay, and once she says this at that point, is there allowed any benefit? I'll just go over a tiny bit. Amar Rabbi Ila, says Rabbi Ila, Uma Elu, Omer Lechavero, Sadezo, etc. We'll see to what degree the Gemara tries to deal with that situation. Okay, again. Okay. Tuesday, the 24th will be the seal. Tuesday morning.
We only have until Friday morning to, tell the,
I don't know, what's his name, Hansel?